Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGraide. Big news, David versus Goliath. Shop on the DavidVSGoliathPodcast.com website. Get your iPhone covers, your cups, even cups like this. Check it out. A lot of fun. Support the show. Show off your swag. We really appreciate it. On to the episode. Coming up today on David versus Goliath. I am fired up.
Either you gonna walk or you gonna hit a home run. You will get to that first base.
Send a shoe.
That was good.
Welcome to today's episode of David versus Goliath, a podcast dedicated to helping small businesses leverage technology to not only help them compete against their large competitors, but win. Your host is currently the CEO of Anthem Software, a three-time Inc. 500 recipient and a serial entrepreneur with a passion to help small businesses everywhere find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. Please join me in welcoming your host, Adam DeGraide.
Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGraide with David versus Goliath podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. It's going to be a great interview with Eugene Tinker for CTE Technologies. Fantastic gentleman. We're going to have a great time in this interview today. Before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Anthem Software, where you can find, serve, and keep more customers profitably with their all-in-one solution built specifically for small businesses to help you with your software, your marketing, and how your people and process and the consulting in your business is run. Take the 120-second tour today at anthemsoftware.com. Some other things that are going on. Don't forget, my book is out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's a children's book, The Adventures of Jackson the Young Field Mouse. Teaches kids about bravery, the power of listening, and the spirit of gratitude. 3 amazing things that they learn, and it's a story I've been telling my sets of children and now my grandchildren for over 26 years. It's exciting. So many great things are going on. You can visit us at DavidVSGoliathPodcast.com. There you can apply to be on the podcast, which is exactly what Eugene did to get on the podcast. Or you can also subscribe to get our email newsletters and updates. And you can even ask me a question. Ask DVG a question. Simply type it in, send it off to me, and we're good to go. Well, with no further ado, let's get right into another amazing episode of David versus Goliath. Eugene, welcome to the DVG podcast. Great to have you here.
Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, my friend. I was looking here at the sheet of some of your clients, and I was incredibly impressed. Number 1, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Veterans Affairs, Centers for Disease Control. The last one is actually interesting, U.S. Naval Special Warfare Command. And I was amazed. I've been learning a lot, Eugene, about the space right now of, government and subs and primes and how it works, and the 8A and the hub zone and the women-owned and the veteran-owned businesses and how it all plays into the contracts and the government. And I actually just interviewed, I don't know if you know Eric Coffey. I interviewed Eric Coffey a few episodes back. He's a pretty interesting guy as well, too. And so check out his podcast. It actually comes out, I think, tomorrow. Okay. And your podcast will come out a couple of weeks from now. But it's awesome to have you on the show. I love people that have a passion for their own business, obviously. And one of the things that I thought was also interesting is I want you to tell people, how you started the business, and then cover a little bit about what you said about as a kid. You kept finding yourself taking things apart and putting them back together again, which I thought was an interesting piece of the story as well, too. But Eugene, the time is yours. Let the watchers and listeners of DVG know a little bit about what you do right now.
Right now, I'm the CEO, founder of Certified Technical Experts. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Certified Tech Group, which is a Hawaiian native company. It's kind of CTE is what I call Certified Technical Expert. Short name CTE was founded about 14 years ago. One of the reasons I was a contractor once I started that, and basically kind of got probed to, hey, you do well. I became a manager, director, and then basically IBM kind of put me together to actually be able to start a company. So started that company, moved to Toronto. And from there, I did a lot of work with the Air Force before then, a lot of work with like the Hyundai plant and stuff of the sort as an independent contractor. So it kind of taught me how to be able to be a contractor or independent owner per se. And basically, it grew from there. A lot of people knew me from my skill sets, like, being able to get in, get it done. I always came in with the approach to make it happen, right? Nothing never too big for me. So that was always my approach to make it happen. So that Hawaiian Native company, it started, it was in the 8A program. We sooner or later graduated. I was approached for a Hawaiian Native entity that was a nonprofit and say, how do you feel about starting your own Hawaiian Native company? And, with the skill set that you have, because, you look real promising that I'm sure somebody will probably acquire you just as well as they acquire your company. So what we did was we put that, created a joint venture between CTE and the Hawaiian Native company. And basically, that's where that CTG came from.
That's great. And just for the watchers and listeners to know, when you say a Hawaiian Native, you're talking about a company that's native to Hawaii.
Correct.
That's what I thought. Okay. I didn't know if there was like a special term for that or whatnot. That's awesome. And so you were helped out by IBM. You started your own business and you got out there and you've actually figured out how to move and shake within the industry. I would imagine at some point you started off as a subcontractor and then eventually you got to the place where you could become a prime contractor that also leverages subcontractors in the space. And so congratulations. And at this point, I think you're almost at 100 employees. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. Started off with just myself and one other individual. We started off in the back of the house, right? Just had that dream. And I was the actual tech, the CEO, the engineer, they're all together.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I remember when I started my first business, Eugene, you'll love this. I started it in the basement of my house in a little town called Riverside, Rhode Island. Wow. And I basically stripped all the asbestos out of this basement and built a recording studio at the time where I ended up doing music jingles. So like jingles you'd hear on radio and TV. And then it morphed into me doing my own advertising agency, that morphed into my own technology business, that morphed into, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And people, it's fascinating for the watchers and listeners. They love DVG because not only is it awesome to hear the success stories, those times in our life when we start, like you said, wearing multiple hats, right? I had the CEO hat. I was the CFO. I was the chief marketing officer. I was the director of all things insanity. I was the junk mail generator. I think that was probably my favorite title of myself. Was people would be like, "Hey, so what do you do?" Well, I'm the junk mail generator. They're like, "What does that mean?" Well, every piece of junk mail that comes to my office has my name on it, so I assume that that's my primary role here is to generate junk mail. But it's awesome when you think about, Eugene, the fact that in the beginning, it was you and a handful of other people. You wore 4 or 5 other hats, and your team grows. One of the things we talk about here on David versus Goliath is the value of people. But it also starts with plans and goals.
Correct.
So when you first started out and you were helped out in starting your first business, was it kind of fly by the seat of your pants and then eventually you got more plans and goals? Tell the listeners a little bit about how it was probably chaotic in the begining. And at what point did you start to have the ability to build a team where you could actually strategize and have plans and goals together?
I guess I can tell you, like, one thing I do, because I mentor companies. I probably got 6 companies I'm mentoring right now, right? And one of the biggest things that I tell them to do is build a vision board, right? You build a vision board. A vision board to me is a business plan, right? Because the only person that can see that vision is you. So what I started doing was, I in turn, when I started a business, I said, I got to have employees, right? And so when I said I had to have employees, I didn't have the money to buy employees, what I did was I went out and got interns, and I made those interns look like I had employees. So when I walked in the room with like 3 interns, but all of them had on shirts and everything like me, but I was the CEO and everything. So when those interns that I was training, I basically said, hey, look, we're going to do this work. And this work, if you have any issues, I need you to walk to the bathroom, pick up your cell phone and give me a call. Right? Don't let the customer know that you don't know the answer to what they're asking you. You go to the bathroom and give me a call, and then I give you the answer and you walk back in and you give them the answer that they're looking for. Or, you make that phone call and have those earbuds in to basically say, hey, this is what the answer is, but I always stayed on standby just to make the company look bigger, because what happened was a lot of times those companies will say, how can I give you a contract when it's just you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and it's definitely a good question. And I think that's a really interesting strategy because, perception, as we know,
correct,
definitely becomes reality. And so if you walked in with just yourself, and I guess you could have alter egos, you could have, I'm Eugene, and then, on the weekends, I'm Stanley or whatever. But at the end of the day, having those interns there gave you that fortitude and even become long-term employees.
Correct. So what I did was I trained those interns, excuse me, and got those interns certified. And those interns actually went off to Iraq and made like 6-figure salaries. So basically they worked for me for a while and they became employees after I started to generate. My first contract was $80,000.
That's great.
So I got that contract about 11:59. I will never forget, September the 30th at 11:59. So the government has to give out all this money by September the 30th. That's when we got our budget completely cleaned out by September the 30th. So at 11:59 p.m., my phone started ringing. I picked up the phone. They said, hey, I got a direct award for you to do some work at Maxwell Air Force Base. Can you do it? I said, yeah, I can do it.
That's great.
And so those interns that was there, those guys we had to do an access database. So those guys were my first, they had their first employment through me. And what I was doing was I was paying them and training them at the same time.
Yeah, that's great.
And so it made me come up with a strategy that hey, we can basically be able to get interns because we can't afford some of these individuals that's coming in with this experience. I could train these interns at a lower cost, be able to give the government what they need, and we'll be able to save money and actually be able to build a company. So what we do, we'll bring in one senior level person, and then that senior level person will have those junior levels, and we'll train them. And one of the interns I have right now came in making $12 an hour. Now he's my chief of technology officer. Amazing. In the company.
I love stories like that when you hear about how people join and became a part of an organization. They start here and they end up becoming the CTO. Correct. Eventually as time goes on. That's awesome because it's rewarding. They were there with you in the beginning and they're there with you now. At what point did the change happen for your business where you went from, having that, that initial contract to then you're able to afford employees and then you're able to get together and strategize and feel more comfortable and confident going forward? How many years into the business did that transition happen for you?
It was really weird because when I came back into the States from Canada and those places, I started getting sub work, and it kind of my second year of the business, my company started growing from the second year. That's amazing. I didn't start feeling no difference until my 8th year of the business because it grew so fast. And I hit the 8A when I came in. That's why I try to tell a lot of companies, everybody comes in and say, I want 8A. I want to get an 8A. Well, you got to strategize with that. If you got 20 companies out here that are 8A or just getting the program and you go jump into 8A and these guys have had theirs for at least a year or two, then they're 5 steps ahead of you. So now you're going to have your 8A and you just holding this 8A when what you could be doing is building your past performance, getting some sub work, and partnering with those 8As. And by the time they get ready to get out of the 8A program, you then apply for your 8A because now you're sitting out there alone because all 20 of those guys, or at least 17, are out of the program and all that work stays 8A. So now That's what happened to me. When I got on the 8A program, a lot of those companies were getting out of the 8A program. So a lot of that work started funneling down to me.
That's amazing. And just for the watchers and listeners to refresh your memory on what we're speaking about, the 8A, is it 8A or is it A8?
It's 8A.
I always say it backwards. It's the 8A. And it's a governmental designation that gives you as a business the ability to get a piece of a prime contractor's contract from the federal government in a lot of ways. It's a designation that allows you to be a prime and be a part of it. And when a business gets it, it's a very big step because now they're certified, for lack of a better word, to be able to share in those contracts or be the prime contractor for these government contracts. And that's how you grow. So you grow from being a sub to eventually having your own designations, and then you become the prime, and then you're hiring subs. And so it's a really interesting program for small businesses, and they have a lot.
For the first 5 years, the government directs awards you those contracts. It was a 9-year program. That 6th year, you have to put a percent. So you have to say, they want you to say, I want you to do 25% of non-8A work. That means whether or not you sub, that means whether or not you have some commercial work, but you can't have a direct award you can't be getting direct awards unless you match that percentage. And what happens is the government, it goes from the 7th year to 35, 4th year, 45, the 8th year, 45, the 9th year, 50%. So that means you got to have 50% of that work that's non-direct awarded from the government. So that allows you to actually be able to start. What they're doing is the program is very clever because what it does is it allows you as a small company to be able to touch bases with those guys. But you also got to always keep in mind that I'm not going to always be given work. I got to get out here and grind. So I really like that part of it.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I'm learning so much about it, Eugene. Like it's like baptism through fire. You know what I mean? It's like we ended up, my company, Anthem Software, we ended up exhibiting at the 8A. We had no idea what the heck we were walking into. We didn't know how we could help anybody. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. There's a lot of money over here. And there's a lot of ability to help a lot of people that need help. And that was what's so cool about it too. So we got to take a quick break from one of our corporate sponsors here at DVG. But when we come back, I do want to talk about your team and about if you can discuss what you can discuss, some of the projects you're working on. So watchers and listeners, you're with Adam DeGraide and Eugene Tinker. You're hanging out on the DVG podcast. There's a special message from Anthem Software. We'll be right back.
Anthem Business Software System is designed to specifically help small businesses just like yours find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. We do this by providing you with the most powerful software, automations, and marketing services to help your business compete and win in this ever-changing digital world. Take a short video tour at anthemsoftware.com.
Anthem Software. Every business has a song. Let our software sing yours.
And we're back with Eugene Tinker, the legend, the man who started in 2010, got awarded his first $80,000 contract, to now he's got over 97 employees, and he's gone from faking it, no, for lack of a better word, Eugene, to making it, and it's very ingenious. You did mention, I want to backtrack rewind just a smidge. You talked about a vision board. And when you're consulting companies on creating a vision board, what exactly is a vision board when you're helping them think through their strategy?
That vision board, what exactly it is a lot of times people can see more than they can put down on paper, right? A lot of times they can look at things. So what they have to do is they have to basically take poster board. They can go to the craft shop and be able to put actual houses. I had one person came and built houses on theirs and put sand in the beach and, to put rings on there. But they have to give me a vision of where they see themselves in the next 10 years from now. right? And what it does is it allows me to be able to look at that company owner, because sometimes that company owner is really speaking about themselves, and not if they got a partner with them. They never, if you look at some of those vision boards, they never look at those visions to see, you can see that vision to say, this company is not going to make it far with a partner, because they are really just speaking about themselves. I want to buy this, or I want these type of shoes. I want a house full of this. And you never hear anything about community service or giving back. One of the things I always tell people, you come into my class, as I would say, you come in my class with the mindset of finance, but you leave out of my class with a purpose.
That's amazing. You know, it's interesting that you talk about that, about how clearly articulating a vision. I heard a sermon years ago, Eugene, which impacted me as a young man. I went to this youth group and he was talking about how God gives us visions. And he said, the problem is the enemy he was describing, in this case, it was the devil he was describing, wants to cloud your vision. And so if you don't have a clear vision and those clouds roll in, you get lost. Correct. Because you don't know where you're going, because you don't even have a direction of where you were walking in the first place. But one of the things I thought was so interesting that he said, create the vision in your mind that God has laid it on your heart, or in this case, a business that you want. And it has to be bigger than I want these shoes and I need this house and I like this car. Because you and I know stuff fades away. That stuff fades away quicker and is gone before you know it. There's always a bigger house. There's always a bigger car. There's always a bigger whatever. And that just becomes scribbles and bibbles. But a vision of I want to change this industry, or I want to change people's lives, it's a bigger vision. And then all the stuff that comes along with it is secondary to the tertiary, to the real vision, which is I want to help and be an improving of my community and my society at large, right? And so when you have a vision, I love what you're saying. And what he said is if you could see the sun bright and shining and you're walking in that direction, he said, when the clouds come down and you feel lost, just keep walking in the direction you saw the sun last, because before you know it, those clouds will rise and you'll be able to see clearly again.
Correct.
And that's kind of what a vision board does. And so what Eugene is saying, guys, for your business is critical. Vision has to be bigger than just what you want out of it.
Correct.
It's what do we, period, I call it, collectively want out of it. And so in Eugene's case, he took these interns, raised them up. One of them's a CTO, and his team is probably grateful for these things that have happened over the years. I would imagine you still have those programs where you bring in interns and help them raise up, right?
Correct.
But it's bigger than just having a fancy pair of shoes or 14 guitars behind you. These are all nice things, folks, but they're not the things that matter the most, which is what have we done that'll last beyond our time. And in building a business, even if your goal is to sell it, you can absolutely build a legacy. Now, Eugene, your team, 97 people right now. Your CTO used to be an intern with you. Finding people is not easy, especially today. What are some of the processes you do, and what is the culture in your business to attract great talent?
I basically, we use all of your tools, but it's been word of mouth, right? And what has happened is when you come into CTE, I tell people I'm not title driven, but when they come in, the difference that I do, Adam, is when you come in, they have to build a vision board as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So all of my employees have to build a vision board as they come in. And when they build that vision board, they have to stand up in front of everybody and tell them their vision. But then when I look at them, I consider everybody title in this office is CEO, because everybody in here, I want them to start their own business.
That's
so it's no different than, it's like from the biblical standpoint, iron sharpen iron. So if I influence you, if you start being around people of the same culture, same generation, you and sooner or later will adapt that, right? And so everybody in this office, We basically, one lady, she started a company already, and I am the employee of her company, and it's called Falling Forward.
Oh, I like that.
And so what it basically does is all of the companies that I'm mentoring, I send them to her company, and then I mentor them through her company.
That's great.
You know, because she understands it. She's been here with me for quite some time. And what I do is, as those companies pay, then the people, she gets paid now. So she understands. So, you know, you look at it, and I think a lot of times when you're a small business, if you're able to empower the individuals, because as they say in the Bible, you look at it, it said, write it down and make it plain. So when you put the vision board up, now they can write it down, because some people can never write it down until they see it.
They can make it plain.
They can make it plain.
Because it helps them think through it.
Correct.
Man, Eugene, that is genius. I think that, you know, they've always done these exercises and over the years. It's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Correct. You know, where do you see the others around you in 5 years? Yeah. That's kind of what you and I are talking about right now, right? Correct. So there's a guy who runs a company called Giddy Up. They do over $500 million a year in revenue right now. He used to be my right-hand marketing director for 8 years. And he built a company 4 times the size of my biggest company that I've built so far. How do you think that makes me feel?
Good.
How do you think it makes him feel?
It makes him feel good.
And he's doing the same thing. You see, it's like, there's where it's bigger. Your business is bigger than just your end means. It's a community of and bigness. And you know, so do your team right now, do you guys get together? I love the fact that you make them stand up and share that vision board. Are you involving your team members in the planning and the strategy for this year, as well as like years in the future together? Or does that still primarily come from you and then they add to it?
No, we involve. So right now, let's say, for example, we put a pot together. What I did was I sit down with everybody here and said, okay, what do you guys want to do? So I added up with them and say, what kind of bonus you want? The bonus that they want by September is $480,000. I divided it by the 7 people sitting in the room, right? So I took a jar and I said, here's what I'm putting in the jar. You come in and if you can put $100 in the jar, $1,000, $5,000. And what it did was it turned the morale of the team to, now I got buy-in. Because a lot of times when you look at companies, if they know it's only coming from you, Adam, then they know that, okay, if I'm going to work, I'm going to get paid, I'm on a salary. But if you buy into something, then you're going to basically be able to have way more at stake with it. So you're going to be able to get on your teammates before the CEO gets there or before the project manager get there, because you like, hey, I put my $100 in and I sacrificed my money for the bill. And that jar is only to turn into basically this return that we get. And so we're hitting that goal right now. We're putting out proposals. If I'm traveling, I get a phone call that said, hey, we had a meeting today. We found 3 opportunities that I think is good to go after. We just want you to vet it because we already vetted. These are individuals that never wrote proposals. You know why? Right?
You know why, Eugene? Because their belief is now theirs.
Correct.
I tell people this all the time. Everything truly great and worthwhile starts with one word.
Correct.
And that's believe. And the question I always say to people is, do you believe? Because the worst thing you can have on your team is an employee that doesn't believe.
Exactly.
Because then all they're doing is collecting a paycheck. And by helping them become part of the vision, part of the creation of it, they become part of the vision. And you don't have to manage people that have passion for what they're doing. Yep. You have to manage people who don't have passion, but you typically don't have to overmanage people. I shouldn't say manage. You have to manage, but you don't have to overmanage people that have passion. Man, that is really, really interesting. Now, before you started this, did you see yourself as a young child growing up and owning your own business someday? Did you ever think about it? And how did this happen?
So, I mean, growing up, I mean, I was in high school, and my mom's had a bad car accident when I was younger, and they gave her 3 days to live. So I used to read books like, Network for Dummies and stuff of the sort. And one day I was tired. I used to have to drive at least 2.5 hours in my 11th, 12th grade year to school. when I got to school and I was reading this book and it was Network for Dummies, and I was able to shut the school down. So it basically kind of stirred me into it. When I used to always walk around a magazine and tell like a lot of my cousins, hey, I'm going to be in a magazine one day. Watch, I'm going to make it. And every time we talk, they'll be like, oh, here we go again. We're going to be in the book again. I'm going to be in the magazine. Well, I never thought about being a CEO. I always wanted to be like the best computer guy or somebody that had, you know, that skill set, and not really even knowing that that was my gift. But when the school situation happened, I got the principal and the superintendent met with me, and I negotiated a deal with those guys, and I got an office and 2 classes until I graduated.
That's amazing. And so think about this, watchers and listeners. You turn tragedy. So I'm very sorry about your mom, by the way.
Yeah.
You turn tragedy into opportunity. And you said something interesting. You kept driving your cousins and your friends or whoever it was crazy because you kept saying, one day, one day. And you know what that was, man? That was vision.
Correct.
And that was something that I believe God divinely had put in you, and that he was burning it in your mind that, Eugene, you're meant for something bigger than you think and you even know. And here we are now. You're hanging. Who knows? It would even be David versus Goliath podcast, the greatest small business podcast in the world, where we champion the small guy and that's taking on the big guy. So, Eugene, I got to take another quick break from another sponsor. But when we come back, I want to talk about courage, which I believe is the most important thing that is needed to start your next business or a business in general. I'm Adam DeGraide. You're watching and listening to the David versus Goliath podcast. Here's another amazing spot right now from one of our sponsors on David versus Goliath. Enjoy.
At King 16, our agency has done some exciting things over the years. We've designed and built amazing experiences for customers and launched several vehicles for Audi and Porsche. We've thrown extravagant parties inside whiskey distilleries and featured amazing products for brands like Ray-Ban and Fossil. We booked some incredible talent and designed cutting-edge stages for those performances. We even threw a red carpet gala in the middle of nowhere on a horse farm with hundreds of celebrities, which was difficult. I guess you could say we've done some amazing things for our brands and partners. Now the only question is, what will King 16 do for you? Find out at king16.com. That's King, SIXTEEN.com.
And we're back with Eugene. Eugene, are you having fun? This is going great.
I'm loving it. Loving it.
You had no idea you're going to be hanging out with some maniac in a t-shirt with a bunch of instruments behind him with his hair spiked out, talking about these cool things today. And I think that's amazing. You know, I'm just very impressed with people that have vision and can see themselves bigger than they are in the beginning. Correct. And if you think about it, like I think about the courage it took for you to hire those interns and to bring them with you to that meeting and to stand there and ask for the business because you knew you deserved it and you knew you could handle it.
Correct.
There's courage in that, man. Mm-hmm. And that is a scary thing for people to do. You know, when you're a small business and you're going in to ask whether it's a client for your first piece of business or getting a big contract, you're probably sitting in the car psyching yourself up, but it takes a lot of courage. And I tell people all the time, in the story of David versus Goliath, David, the shepherd boy, was offered the armor of Saul and his sword. And he said, I don't need that. He said, I've got the big guy on my team. He went out in his shepherd boy outfit. He went down by the river. And the Bible actually says that he got 5 smooth stones. Mm-hmm. And these 5 smooth stones on DVG are likened to the 5 things that every small business has to have, which is plans and goals, the right people, the right technology, the right process, and the courage to get out there. And the fascinating story about the story in the Bible is that it only took one stone to slay giant, and that was courage. And so I think back to the story of you, Eugene, walking in there with those interns with clear instructions. Don't say something you're not supposed to say. But you presented a good front and you landed your first piece of business. That takes courage. How did you feel walking into that first meeting?
I mean, you hit the 5 stones. I mean, I live by 5 P's, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance. So if you plan properly, right, it's going to help you prevent any type of poor performance. So the courage that you need, and it only takes, it's like faith. Just faith of a mustard seed, right? And people don't really know how big a mustard seed is. It's very small.
I think it's like this.
But that little bit, it don't take, but just say, Adam, right? I'm about to go into a meeting. You say, Eugene, you could do it. Just let's go over it right now. You could do it. Me walking in that meeting, or you sit in the crowd of that meeting as I'm walking in to do my presentation and you nodding your head like, yep, you're not saying a word, gives a person courage. So courage, allows you to be able to take upon like anything that walks against you. I have a clothing line called Believe in Oneself. So if you start believing in yourself, I call it bios, right? So if you start believing in yourself, I give it to a lot of the kids. We do a scholarship program right now. We give out laptops and, and it's bios, right? So if you start believing in yourself, believing in yourself allows you to actually be able to have so much courage that you wouldn't even know that you really have.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's just.
I think about that first meeting though, when you walked in there, and you're like, "I deserve to be here." Correct. And I think that's something that is important. So watchers and listeners, if you're thinking about starting your own business, you got to look in the mirror, and you got to say. It doesn't ultimately matter what other people believe about you at that moment. It's do you believe it? Because if you don't go in that meeting. But if you do, you can walk in with confidence, courage, self-respect, and dignity and say, I deserve this piece of business and here's why, and feel 100% comfortable on that, right? People work with Eugene because they believe in Eugene.
Correct.
Eugene works with his employees because his employees believe in themselves, which in help feeds the whole company at whole. And so this is what it's all about, guys, as you're building a business and you're having courage. Now, when you started the business and you got that first contract and you went home that night, how did you feel?
Man, I felt so good. Like when I got that phone call, I basically were like in tears, right? Because I got tattoos. So what I did was I got up that next day, crazy as it may sound, and I went and tattooed on my arm, blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, I love it.
Because that's basically what I had. Like, when you're walking, the biggest thing is every day you got no's. And that you have to have courage to pick up the phone because, Adam, if somebody gonna tell you no every day, it'll kill your self-esteem. You'll be like, well, I'm going to get no, so I might as well don't call. But if you got the courage to get up every day and call, the belief to say, I'm going to call whether they say no or not, right? When we got our 8A back in 90 days. You know what happened? Every single day, I would call the SBA office and ask them, I was just calling to see if you have any time to look at the results for CTE's 8A. So they stopped answering the calls. You know what I did? I took my mother phone and started calling. I started blocking my phone number and started calling. So I think we got our 8A back in 90 days because they were like, I'm so tired of this guy calling every single day. Not saying that works for everybody, but it was the persistence. After talking to the representative, she said it was the persistent young man that you did that allowed me to go ahead and pick up your package, because the first time we went in, we got denied. The second time, my mom said, I'm disabled. Let me see, can I write it? So she writes this book that's bigger than a binder that you get for school. Like, it's a huge book. And I'm like, Ma, they ain't asked for all this detail. She said, well, I don't know. I gave them enough information. So if they want to read it, they going to know everything about you and all the blood, sweat, and tears it took for you to get it. So, you know, all those things matter when it comes to one to win. You cannot accept. I say this. I spoke last week. I always say this. Forget walking in your shoes. Take your shoes off, take your socks off, take your toes, and you dig in the mud. Because if you grip that mud with your toes, you gonna dig and you gonna climb. And so that's what I did. And that's what every small company has to do.
I absolutely love this because everyone listening, persistence is critical. You know what I did one day on a sales call? I had this car. I was a radio sales guy, and I literally could not get my foot in the door. So I took my shoe off and I wrote a note and I put it inside.
Wow.
And I FedExed it. The guy got my shoe the next day with a note sticking out of it. And it says, now that I have one foot in the door, can I get the other one in?
That was good.
And he became a client. And he was a client all the years I was a radio rep. And it's like, you know what it is, guys? It's not like an arrogance that Eugene is talking about or that I'm talking about. It's just that we know we can help people and that we deserve the job. We deserve the chance. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that belief and that confidence, you know, it makes all the difference. Now, Eugene, there are people right now, and I feel like Mr. Rogers right now as I'm putting on my, you know, put my shoe back on. You know, there are a set of people that have gone through difficult times in their business. I know that you have as well, too. Mm-hmm. Or they're afraid a little bit. They're discouraged. They haven't gotten to that point where they believe in themselves that way yet. But they have a great idea. They have something. They have a good company or a good foundation, but they can't get to the next level. What is the one thing that Eugene Tinker would recommend to them to help them get over that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and get that shoe off their foot in that door?
Faith. You gotta have faith, and you gotta be able to knock on the door. A lot of times, criticism is not the baddest, the worst thing to happen, right? You get to the door and they tell you no. I don't. In my office, my kids, they can't say the word can't. I don't accept the word we.
I hate that word, by the way. I hate that word.
Yeah, I don't accept the word no.
It's like every time you quit, all you're doing is teaching yourself to quit. Every
Correct.
time you say you can't, all you're doing is teaching yourself that you can't.
Correct.
So how do you handle that?
My biggest thing to or what I can tell any small business that's the fear is, I guaranteed you, once you step out and try it, and you try it, it's just like striking. It's like you got 3. I guarantee you'll never strike out. Your first 2, you'll get strikes. But that third ball that you're going to hit is going to be a ball. Either you're going to walk or you're going to hit a home run. You will get to that first base. But you have to try it. Nobody else is going to see that vision. Nobody else is going to believe as hard as you can. Nobody else is going to go as tough as you can. I was told from my mentor, he's used the word talk. That's trust, access, like, and know. So you got to be able to trust yourself. You got to figure out a way to have access.
I love it.
You got to like what you do. And you got to know what you're talking about when you walk in that room. If you can do those things, it ain't nothing on this green earth can stop you from becoming whatever in this world that you want to be. Because
no doubt about it.
Nobody can stop it.
Nobody can stop that. Oh my gosh, that is such great advice. That is such great advice. Talk. Say it one more time for the listeners. Talk.
You got to have trust, right? You got to have access. You got to like, and you got to know. So you got to trust yourself, right? First of all, you got to trust yourself, and you got to gain the trust of others.
Then you got to figure out how to get in there.
Yeah. Then you gotta have access. You gotta figure out, how can I get in there? Right? Okay, if I can't send a letter there, if I can't send a postcard, if I can't pick up the phone and call,
send the shoe.
Send the shoe. There you go, right? But then you got to like what you putting this time in for, and you got to be like. See, in the beginning, you may not. I don't know you, so I can't like you. But if you like what you do, you're gonna find ways of being able to make it happen.
And then you got to know what you're doing.
You got to know. You get that opportunity.
You can fake certain things, but you can't fake that.
You can't fake it. So if I get the opportunity, just like getting invited to the show, if I got this opportunity, I got to know what I'm talking about. You got to be able to say, I can pull one podcast back where this Eugene knew exactly what he was talking about, right? But if you get that access, you do all of that work. And when you get in the room and you still have that fear and don't have that courage inside of you, guess what happens? Now that one opportunity is toast.
Toast. Man, this is such amazing advice and so fantastic. Now, Eugene, how can people find you online or reach out to you if they have any questions or if they want your help?
LinkedIn. I'm at Eugene Tinker at LinkedIn. My email address is eugenetinker@ctex-inc.com. You can reach me at Eugene Tinker at creativetechgroup.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. It's all Eugene Tinker. I don't hide it. You can actually just go to Google and type in Eugene Tinker and you'll see this ugly guy pop up. Don't run from your screen now, but I'll be there. So I don't mind. What I call it is nuggets and jewels. I don't mind. One of the things I always say, crabs in the bucket always look to pull each other down. But ever think that if you ever was that crab in the bucket that was able to get off top of the bucket, what I want anybody to do, and this is what I said for myself, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to cut a hole in the side of the bucket. I'm not going to tell you don't look up, but what I'm going to do is give you an opportunity to look around. Instead of trying to climb out, you can just walk right out of that hole on the side and you can be able to make it and be successful. So I'm always there to give some advice. And if you want to be able to get into, mentoring, you want somebody to mentor you. Like I said, I work for now, who's my director. I work for her now as a mentoring companies because she's so big in HR and she wanted to, she said, you helped me so much. So now I mentor companies for her and basically it's called falling forward. So you don't fall on your face. It's called you falling forward. So every time you stumble, you still get into a good place in life. But it seems like you're falling to fall down, but you're falling forward. Because if you stand up straight right now, and if you fall straight down, you're going to be further than where your feet was planted at. Because now I start from the head.
No doubt about it. Man, I am fired up. Eugene, this has been absolutely awesome. I am so glad that you spent some time with us on the David versus Goliath podcast. And watchers and listeners, I tell you this all the time. You can't find content like this anywhere else. You can't get great advice like this anywhere else. This is the place right here on the DVG podcast. Eugene, thank you for coming. Watchers and listeners, thank you for watching and listening. Stay tuned next week for another amazing edition of the David versus Goliath podcast. Have a fantastic day.